If you're going to be buying and selling Pokemon cards long term, or really any kind of sales long term, I think people really need to step up their game. And the reason I say this is because I've had a few interactions with some people lately to where I'm like, I don't even know if I can trust this person. This person seems kind of sketchy. For example, I had a interaction with someone who was selling a Zapdos SIR from 151. And this person that I reached out to on Facebook Marketplace, they had no profile picture. Their communication was terrible. They had agreed to meet me at a certain time. And then when it came up to that time, like 10 or 15 minutes before I had to leave from work to go meet them, they said, hey, can you meet at this time? So I had to change my whole plans. We agreed upon the original time. And so I just really think that people just need to step up their game, because if they want to be selling long term, building trust, which is what I'm going to show you here today, building trust is really, really important. And like I said, if you want to do that long term, you got to make sure that you're doing everything trustworthy, because you're not going to have a lot of sales long term if you don't. So I put together with this PowerPoint of some things that I use personally, some guidelines. It can help you buying and selling Pokemon cards more effectively and being in the hobby long term. So let's check it out. All right, so I put this PowerPoint together. It's totally focused around trust, because I think that's probably going to be the number one thing that you need to build in doing anything long term, whether it be business, selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace, or selling Pokemon cards, or doing it professionally. Trust is going to be a super important factor. So why trust matters? So buyers have many options. Buyers can come to you or go to someone else. Why would they come to you? It's because you built that trust with them, or people have heard that you're trustworthy, so they come to you. So that trust factor is going to be super important. So scams damage the community. Don't be a scammer. Don't sell stuff that isn't legit. That's not going to just hurt you. It's going to hurt everybody else. It's going to hurt the community, and it's just going to get a negative stigma to you and the community. We don't want to do that. Reputation drives repeat business. If you're a reputable seller, whether you have good reviews or you referred to by word of mouth, that's going to be super important to keep repeating your business in terms of sales. Trust creates long-term customers. So if I were not trustworthy, I'm not going to have any customers. So the importance is to build trust long-term so you have repeat customers coming back to you. I want to have a steady amount of product coming to me, and that's going to help with me building trust. Word of mouth referrals are powerful. So if you don't have trust in the community, but someone knows you and they know you're trustworthy, that word of mouth is going to be super helpful as well. So always do your best to be as open and honest as possible. So foundation of trust, I wrote 4 pillars here: transparency, consistency, communication, and accountability. Transparency, like just give the person super transparent information, like, hey, this ETB that I'm selling has a rip in the corner. Don't hide it, because that's going to help you stay reputable long term. Consistency, make sure you're following through with everything you do consistently, because that's going to build that trust long term as well. Communication, always have great communication. If someone reach out to you, respond in a timely manner. I know things get busy and stuff like that. Make sure you jot down a note or something like that to respond to this person if they reach out to you and you don't get back to them. And then accountability, if you mess up, just own up to it, because that's going to be important for your reputation long term. Be honest about card condition. So whether you're selling a ETB or cards or anything like that, make sure you have front and back pictures, disclose whitening, scratches, dents, creases, use consistent grading standards, never hide flaws. So I like to point out that use consistent grading standards. The TCG Player grading standards is a super helpful tool to help you understand what's near mint, lightly played, moderate played, heavily played, damaged, that kind of thing. And then some things to avoid: misleading photos. If you're taking a picture to kind of hide something, that's not going to be helpful for you long term. Crop damage, like taking a picture of a card that there's just got a slight dent above your picture, that's not going to be helpful as well. And then inflated condition claims. Don't claim it's near mint when it's slightly played or moderately played. If someone knows their card condition, they're going to call you out every single time. Pricing with integrity. Explain how prices are determined. So I like to think of this as like the sealed promo. If you're trying to make some extra money on sealed promos, just let them know that. I personally don't buy, like I wouldn't pay more for a sealed promo versus the raw card, because I don't think it really matters that much. Be willing to justify pricing. Like I said, if you think the product's worth more long term, maybe you can justify that, but just go off of TCG player prices or eBay prices. It doesn't, a quick buck, maybe inflating the price $100 is maybe going to help you, but it could ruin your reputation, so don't do that. And then avoid exploiting misinformation. Misinformation would be regarding like, hey, maybe you hear something that might be helpful to your business, but you know it's wrong. Don't go by someone else's standards. Go by your standards and make sure they're honest. Communication builds confidence. So before the sale, communicate with the person properly, answer all their questions, provide additional photos when asked. During the sale, confirm payment, confirm shipping details if you're shipping to another state or internationally. And then after sale, so like if the product arrives and you know it arrives, make sure you follow up with them and then provide tracking information. Shipping professionalism, always use your penny sleeves, top loaders, team bags, bubble mailers. I will do team bags and top loaders and penny sleeves for things under $20. And then I'll just go a step further with anything over $20. I'll use bubble mailer and add tracking to it just to make sure that it gets to the customer properly and it doesn't get lost in translation. You know what I mean? So insurance for high value cards. Also, I think it's going to be helpful for both you and the buyer if you insure your cards. That would be, and when I say insurance, it's more like super high price cards. You don't want to send something in the mail that's $10,000, $15,000 and then end up having the post office lose it or UPS lose it. That would be terrible to lose that kind of money. So handling problems correctly. Just so you know, mistakes will happen. You will mess up at some point. If you haven't now, you will in the future. Just know that you can own up for it and just kind of do things the correct way. So when issues occur, respond quickly, listen first, be respectful, offer reasonable solutions. And I put this in here. So like, let's just say I had an example of a card that got to a customer. It was lightly played and I had missed that. And so the customer reached out to me, sent me pictures. And so I offered him a partial refund for that card that was not in the condition that I said it was. And so that was totally my bad. And I made sure the customer was happy. That's the important thing. You want to make sure the customer is always happy to an extent, right? You don't want to send a couple $1,000s worth of product and then they say it was all damaged, but it really wasn't. You want to make sure that you do your due diligence on that end too. And then never ignore messages, become defensive, or blame the customer immediately. Put yourself in the customer's shoes and see how they feel. And that's going to be, all right, I had my wife walk in on me, so I had to start over. So I don't know where I left off, but so let's go to the next slide. Building a community reputation. So community is important, whether you're in Pokemon cards or any kind of other community. You want to make sure you have a good standing with your customers or people you know, that kind of thing, because that's going to help you build trust long term. So consistent, positive transactions. Make sure you're always acting as if you were, so like the golden rule, treat others as you would like to be treated. Community engagement, engage with your community. If you're on Facebook or if you're on a Discord, make sure you always engage respectfully to others. Honest reviews, I like these because they help you build trust and reputation long term. So if you're buying on Facebook Marketplace or Discord or something like that, and you have an interaction with someone and they know you're trustworthy, they can give you a good review to other people that are looking to buy other stuff from you. Educational content, so like this right here, I'm trying to help people be long-term in the space. So give education if you can, if they're receptive to it, or maybe ask if they'd like some education. That would be super helpful for both parties. One, to build your reputation, and then two, to help the other person. And then event participation. I've vended myself. So like if there's a Pokemon event at a local card store, or if you're vending or something like that, make sure you participate, make sure people know who you are so you can build that trust long term. Social media responsibility. So this kind of falls into the other slide. Be respectful, avoid public arguments, share educational content, like I said right here. Celebrate customers, so like celebrate their wins. So I'm building a legendary bird binder. So the person I bought the card from recently, he was super pumped for me, and that really meant a lot to me. So celebrate customer wins, and then respond professionally. Always make sure you're doing things as if you were in the other person's shoes. So buying collections ethically. I don't buy too many collections as of right now, but some things that I would think that would be helpful were to explain your offer. So let's just say you're buying things to resell them, right? And you're buying at 80%. Make sure the customer knows that. Make sure the customer knows that you're reselling, because if you go behind their back like, yeah, I'm just adding it to my collection, maybe they're more likely to give you 80%, and then you turn around and sell it and they find out. That would ruin your reputation very quickly. Be transparent about market values. I would say just always go off of market value unless you agreed on another percentage. Respect emotional attachments. So let's just say this person has some issues in their life and they need to sell their collection. Be respectful of their emotions. Maybe they're really attached to some of the stuff they're selling, but they need to sell it because they need money. So just be respectful of that. Avoid pressure tactics. Don't be a salesman. Don't try salesman tricks. If someone's not going to sell to you, don't pressure them. Misrepresentation. The reason I put this in here, you want to make sure that you're not representing yourself as someone else or something like that. And then taking advantage of inexperience. So I had a personal collection when I was younger and my mom sold it. My mom doesn't know anything about Pokemon cards other than you can find them at a vending machine or they're really expensive, right? So if you're interacting with a buyer that's not very experienced in the space, just make sure that you're doing everything ethically. Don't pay them less and say that their cards are worth less than they actually are, because eventually that will come back to bite you. Building trusted events, like so if you're vending or you're at an LCS or something like that, be approachable, always be friendly, be talking to people, that kind of thing. Display pricing clearly. So if you're a vendor, I know for me, I made sure that all my cards were priced properly and priced, because I hated that people would ask, or I would ask a vendor, what's the price of this card? And it takes them like a few minutes to look it up on TCG Player. It just helps save time for both yourself and the buyer or the seller, whatever shoes you're in. Honor verbal agreements. So if you agree on a certain price, don't change that. Especially human interactions, yeah, the market price is changing every single day. If for some reason you agreed upon paying a certain price and this person says, no, let's just go off market price and inflated $20, that's not going to be good for you or the buyer or the seller on that end. And then thank customers for their support. They could be going anywhere else, but they chose you. Just be thankful for them. Customer retention. So this is people, if maybe you're a vendor or if you have an online website, stuff like that, you can offer a few things that will help people help people to come back. Loyalty discounts, consistent service. I think that's really important. Just making sure that when you send things or provide things for customers, making sure that they're always the same consistency. Don't want to be changing up your shipping process and to save more money, and ends up being the product becomes damaged or something like that. Follow-up messages. I think it goes a long way with the buyer or seller. If you follow up with them, make sure everything's good on their end. And then exclusive offers. So I have a website. I provide free shipping or $5 off for someone that has ordered for the first time off my website. So that's going to be important. And then community engagement, that's going to show up. That showed up again. So that's going to be important to make sure that everybody knows who you are and what you represent. So long-term thinking. Something that I like to ask myself is, will this decision help or hurt me in 1 year from now? And I think this is a good question you always want to ask yourself, just to keep yourself in check. Just make sure that you are doing deals properly and making sure that your customers buying from, they would want to do a deal with you in the future. Short-term thinking is going to really be something you want to stay away from, because that's not going to keep you in the space long-term. So quick profit and risky behavior. Risky behavior is like trying to hide something that you know is there that would decrease your price, but the seller probably doesn't know. So don't hide any of those things. Long-term thinking, so customer trust. This whole PowerPoint's about customer trust, so keep that your standard. And then sustainable growth, building a business, becoming profitable, that kind of thing. Sustainable growth is going to be important as well. So I like to use this scenario, personal scenario that I had, so as a example of building trust. So I had shipped off a card on TCG Player, and that card was not in the state that I labeled it as. So I labeled it as near mint, and there's actually something that was really hard to see that didn't make it near mint, and the customer called me out. I was able to kind of refund them the price difference because they wanted to keep the card. But a few things you want to try to avoid is poor responses. So ignoring their messages, like just completely disregarding them because you know it was there, right? Denying responsibility. Always put responsibility on yourself, whether you're the buyer or seller, it's not going to matter. You always want to stay that reputable course. And then professional response, acknowledge concern, review evidence, offer a refund, return partial compensation. And then hopefully, most of the time, your trust is preserved because of that. Community first, you always want to make sure that the community is placed above yourself, because you want to keep everybody around, everybody enjoying the hobby is going to be important for both you and the other people around you. So just make sure that we all benefit. So we all benefit from acting ethically, being respectful, information is shared honestly, and new collectors feel welcome. I think that's important too. There's a ton of people coming into the space that don't really know what's going on. If they have a poor interaction, they're not going to stay around. So it's important to kind of grow this hobby along. Wrapping things up, key takeaways. You always want to remember, trust is your greatest asset. So when I say that is, if you are trustworthy, you will do great things. So just stay trustworthy. Reputation takes you years to build, but you can lose it in a second. So being transparent creates confidence. So if you're always transparent, the customers that come to you, or if you're on the other side of things, it's going to help both you guys long term. Communication prevents problems. So make sure you communicate everything effectively in a timely manner, because that's going to go a long way with your customer. And then long-term relationships outperform short-term profits. So regardless of if you're selling a $1,000 slab or a $30 booster bundle, you want to build a long-term relationship with that person. So if they come back to you, they know you're trustworthy. They know you can do deals with them in the future. But anyway, that's all I have for you guys. If you have any experiences with some kind of trust issue or tips and tricks for other people that are watching this, go ahead and drop them in the comment below. And if you want to support me or my channel, you can visit us at chaoscard.com. We've got lots of Japanese booster boxes. And if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to me on info@chaoscard.com. So anyway, take it easy, guys. We'll see you later.